Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to make simple dinner rolls using a very underutilized kitchen appliance, and that is the bread maker. This is a very simple recipe that requires about 2 hours for the bread maker to make the dough. Takes about half an hour to an hour to proof the buns once you've made them into the dinner roll shape, and about 30 minutes to bake them. I'm going to show you a quick way to proof buns, so we'll get into that later on here in the video, but follow along. So for this recipe, you only need 7 ingredients. First, you're going to start out with 1 1/3 cup of lukewarm water. Not hot, not cold. You do not want to kill out your yeast. Next, you're going to add 2 tablespoons of powdered milk. After that, you are going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar. Next, you're going to add 2 tablespoons of shortening. I don't have shortening, so I'm just going to use good old vegetable oil. After that, you're going to add a 1.25 teaspoons of regular old salt. Next, you're going to add 3 1/4 cups of regular flour. You could use bread flour. I'm just using all-purpose flour because that's what I have. Excuse the mess. And last but not least, now you got to add your yeast. We are using 2 teaspoons of Bread Maker quick rising yeast. Put it right in the center. And there you go. Those are all the ingredients that you need to make buns. Now that you have all of your ingredients into the bread pan, and remember, make sure that paddle is in the bottom of this guy. Go ahead, open up your bread maker, and just drop it in, lock it, and you're good to go. Once you've placed the pan inside of the bread maker, now you got to set the settings on it. Every bread maker is going to be a little bit different. As you can see, I have a Black & Decker. You're going to want to choose the dough and pasta setting. So for mine, you just click the button until that little arrow now says dough and pasta, and now all you do is go ahead and hit start. So this says 2 hours. There's a bit of a pre-warming stage. As you can see, everything's all ready to go in there. It'll start mixing up here in about, I think it's 15 minutes before the mixer starts, and then it takes the full 2 hours. Like I said, this is going to do all of the mixing, kneading, and everything, so that when the timer is done here in 2 hours, you're ready to go ahead and form them into dough balls and put them into the next stage, which is proofing. And like I said, I'll show you guys a really neat trick on how to do that. Now's a wonderful time to mention that this recipe is actually the recipe that came with this bread maker in the cookbook. It is just a regular white bread recipe that I've just altered to using for a bun recipe. Now, if you wanted to go ahead and actually make the bread, you don't click the dough and pasta setting, of course, on this. You would set it for the crust type that you want, dark, light, medium, depending on what you're looking for. This one also does have a time delay feature, which is really handy that depending, like if you're coming off of work and you want to have fresh bread, you can go ahead and set the time delay, put everything in, and it will be ready at the time that you're looking for. But again, all bread makers will be different. I'm just letting you know what my Black & Decker bread maker will do. Sorry guys, I was wrong. This bread maker kicks in at 1 hour and 35 minutes after I turned it on to start mixing. As you can see, it's starting to do its thing down in there. Now here's the time when you're going to see if you have enough water in your in the dough, or if you have too much water, you might have to add more flour, or if you don't have enough water, you're going to add more water. So this is kind of that time where you'll be able to tell how it's going to turn out, and I'll show you what you're looking for. So what you're looking for is a dough ball that kind of looks like that. It's pulling away from the edges of the bread pan as it's kneading away, and it only has that little ring because that's where everything started. So this looks about right. It doesn't need any more water, and it definitely doesn't need any more flour. It should be a little bit tight to the press of the finger, and because we're actually not baking in this bread maker, it is okay to have the lid open, but try to reduce the time that you have it open because you want that yeast to stay nice and warm so that it can do its job. As you guys can see, it's 31 minutes left remaining, and it has definitely tripled in size inside of that bread pan. Now, you don't hear the paddle going or anything at this current moment because it does its first rise inside this machine. In a minute or two here, I believe the paddle will kick in, punching it down and then it'll do one final rise before the final buzzer after 30 minutes is done, which is when you will take it out of the bread maker and form it into dough balls. So now that the bread machine has done its job and we have the dough, or the bread dough, ready to go, next we got to form them into bun-sized balls, and we got to proof them. Now, to proof bread or buns, you would just leave them on the countertop or on top of the stove under a towel for an hour or two, which would proof them. Now, if you don't have the time to wait, like I really don't, there's a quick way of doing it. So what I like to do is I take a pot, fill it half full with water, and I put it on the stove. I bring that to a boil. Once it's at a boil, I'll put it into my oven with the oven still turned off, which will turn it into a damp, humid, warm proofing box, making the proofing process cut in about half time. While you're waiting for the water to boil to create your proofing box, go ahead and take your bread dough. It's going to be a little bit sticky. And put it out onto your clean kitchen counter. You can put a little bit of flour down to keep it from sticking. I find that it really doesn't stick at this point. Make sure you remove the paddle, which did all of the work, and that goes off to the side. Now you're left with your dough ball. You're going to split this down into, I get about 12 dinner roll buns out of this, so you're going to want to split it into 12 portions. If you had a scale in your kitchen, you definitely could weigh each one of these to make sure that they're all the same size, but I just go by the looks of it. Now that you got 12 portions or dough balls here, make sure you grab your cookie sheet. I put a little bit of Pam spray onto it just so that nothing sticks. Then it's very simple. You take your dough ball and you create them into buns by pushing 2 fingers into the center of the bottom and pushing up. As you can see, it rolls into a very nice dough ball, and then at the bottom I like to take and pinch, make a twist, and there you go, perfect dough ball. And you just repeat this step 12 times. As you can see behind me, the water has come to a rapid rolling boil. So what I'm going to do, open up my oven, take out the pan that I forgot to take out from dinner the other night, take this off the stove top into the oven. Next, what you're going to do is take your rack of buns. As you can see, take a mental note of the size. These are going to double in size. Take those, put those right on top of that pot of boiling water. As you can see, there is no heat on in this oven right now. It is turned off. Close up the door and give that about a half an hour. We'll come back and see the size difference. So after about a half an hour, guys, let's see what we get. They have more than doubled, and the pot of boiling water has done its job. Now you're going to take those buns out of the oven, dump the pot of boiling water, preset your oven to 350 degrees, and put them in for about 15 to 20 minutes or until they're done. And here you are. This is what you get. Beautifully golden brown dinner rolls ready for dinner. Fresh out of the oven, I can't say no to a fresh piece of bread with some of your favorite jam. I got some good old Smucker's raspberry here. Give that a nice spread. And how does it taste? It's almost better than store-bought. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.